featuring the mountain bike Tour de France. And Thompson.
Hello and welcome to the 4th edition of the Tour Vtt, the 1998 mountain bike tour. 8 stages, 8 special stages, 5 liaison stages, a total distance for these riders, 559 kilometers, starting at Briançon in the Hautes-Alpes region. 100 riders, 20 teams, 5 riders in each team. Teams to watch out for were the Giant team, including last year's winner from 1997, Lenny Christensen. Part of the entertainment, Mark Vanko, the Scott Trials rider, the junior world champion from 97. Throughout the tour, he entertained all of the crowds that came to see this tour, Vtt 1998. But the teams, including the Diamondback team of world champion Hubie Paluba, one of the favourites for this race, along with Miguel Martinez, along with Cadel Evans, member of the Volvo Cannondale team, backed up by Jean-Christophe Savignoni, Cyril Bonon, Rafael Martinez, one of the favourites there, Miguel Martinez, along with Christophe Hérisset, David Ossel, Ludovic Dubois, and indeed Christophe Dupuis. The Giant team, led by Lenny Christensen, 1997 winner. That included Rune Højdahl, the Danish champion. But the first stage was from Briançon to Giestre, a total distance of 47 kilometers on the special stage, 30 on the liaison stage. Physically, about 3 stars, the high stars 5, that's the most difficult. Technical, 2 stars. And the riders to watch out for were Miguel Martinez, Hubert Paluba, Lenny Christensen, Christophe Dupuis, Rune Højdahl, Cadel Evans, Jean-Christophe Savignoni. He was actually the nominated leader of the Volvo Cannondale team, but on the first stage, a distance on this special stage of 47 kilometers. It really did string out the riders from the start. 8 countries in all. And the pace was very, very quick. 2 riders headed the field. 2 riders who you would expect to be at the top. Miguel Martinez and world champion Hubert Paluba. They were chased by Lenny Christensen, last year's champion, Christophe Dupuis, Cadel Evans, Michael Rasmussen, Jean-Christophe Savignoni, and the rest of the 100-strong bunch. But at 6 kilometers, it was Paluba who had attacked, and he took Martinez along with him. Number 31, Paluba, number 24, Martinez. Paluba attacking on a technical descent where only Martinez could answer. These two actually built up a lead between them. They were being chased by Lenny Christensen, Rune Højdahl. Lenny Christensen, the 1997 champion, of course, wearing number 1. But he had on his tail the teammate of Miguel Martinez, number 23, Christophe Hérisset. He was watching over just to make sure Christensen wasn't getting too near his teammate. The following group was Christophe Dupuis, number 21. Another teammate, David Ossel, number 25. Number 11, the leader of the Volvo, one of the nominated leaders of the Volvo Cannondale team, Cadel Evans. Also there for company, 151, number 12, Cyril Bonon, the Frenchman and Volvo Cannondale rider. But it was actually Paluba and Martinez who absolutely dominated stage 1 of this tour, working together to build up their 3-minute lead. 47 kilometers for this stage, and at 34k they had a 3-minute lead over Christensen and Hérisset. 2 riders with Hérisset constantly at the back, not working. Dupuis was just behind them. With Diamondback riders, Christophe Salza, Di Bertolis, and a couple of others chasing hard. But into the town of Giestre, it was actually Paluba and Martinez who were neck and neck. And coming into the sprint, it was Martinez leading out from the front, surprisingly, who got the edge over Paluba. Paluba saying but he wasn't in the wrong gear, but it actually looked like Martinez was just a lot stronger. And Martinez said, after the stage, he said that he didn't have the best day because Paluba was very, very strong, but he recognized the route they were using, and he knew that he could push at the right times. He felt that he could do well in this race, and he was confident of keeping the leader's jersey, the leader's green jersey. But Lenny Christensen, last year's champion, came home in third spot, 250 down, with Christophe Hérisset, ever his watchman, in fourth, just behind him. But it was Martinez who took that green leader's jersey, changing from 1997, purple jersey in 97. And Cadel Evans taking the orange and white jersey of the under-21 rider. But it was the next stage, stage 2, from Crevaux to Station de Les Ors. A total distance of 25k, a very short stage, but a lot of climbing for these riders. Physically 3-star, technically 3-star as well. A liaison stage, 30 kilometers. And we took a look at the bivouac camp that these riders have to sleep in every single night. And the Parprey ride, I think it was Laurent Nicolai, he said that it was a hard race today. It will be a hard race, lots of climbing, it'll be tough. And we start at 600 meters, and it's going up all of the time to 800 meters. I'm sure we'll feel it. All of the riders, as I said, camping every single night makes the tour that much more difficult. Constantly carbo loading, getting as much rest as is possible. The teams preparing and just making sure that everything is clean for the riders. Very calm atmosphere early on in the morning. Riders having their first massage just before the start of the day, bikes being checked, making sure they're perfectly good.
Like it's a very hard course today. It's short, but it's a lot of climbing, so it will be tough. And you know, we are on starting on 1600 meter and going up to 1800, so I can feel it here too. You know, it's not so much air.
That was Rune Højdahl, one of the favourites, riding number 3 on the Giant team. 100 riders starting the second stage. 25 kilometers for special stage, 30 on the liaison in the Haute-Alpes region of France. The green jersey just behind Lenny Christensen, leading out the pack. But at 8 kilometers, it was actually Christophe Dupuy, Miguel Martinez's teammate, who attacked on a long climb, being chased by Raoul Paulison. Cadel Evans, number 11, the Diamondback team of Hubert Paluba, Mirko Bruschi, Massimo Di Bertolis, Christophe Souza and Jeder Zoli. And of course, lots of these riders, including this man, number 131, Thomas Bond, the Danish rider, riding for the Danish team. He wasn't too happy about puncturing on day 2. Weather conditions perfect for these guys. Hot, big crowds on the course as well. It was after a technical descent at 12 kilometers. Martinez was at the front of the group. He was joined by Dupuy, Rune Højdahl, Michael Rasmussen, Souza, Di Bertolis, Paluba. But that man Paluba, he was to suffer a puncture shortly afterwards and was chasing very hard to get back on to the front of the group. But it was Dupuy who was leading out teammate Miguel Martinez up this very, very difficult climb. Short, sharp stage. Martinez, the diminutive Martinez, was very, very strong. Rasmussen was there. Zoli, Di Bertolis, Højdahl leading out the chase after Martinez, but up the first climb into Station des Ors, it was Martinez who'd pulled out a gap over the rest of the riders. Martinez attacking at the 14-kilometre mark. Dupuy falling off after his initial attack, and only 2 riders could actually stay with Martinez, the green jersey leader. One of those was Massimo Di Bertolis, the Diamondback rider. The other one, Rune Højdahl, the Norwegian national champion. Di Bertolis, a relative newcomer onto the mountain bike scene, was working very, very hard to reel in Miguel Martinez. Paluba trying desperately to limit his losses to Martinez, the second place rider overall before the start of stage 2. Dupuy had dropped slightly off the pace, but was managing to hold on, roughly about 120 down. Cadel Evans, the Volvo Cannondale rider and leader of the under-21 jerseys, was riding with Michael Rasmussen, but was to lose even more time. Lenny Christensen, the 1997 champion, he was struggling to stay in touch as well. But the stage highlighted by the climbs and the descents. And it was the ever-strong Miguel Martinez, number 24, riding for Team Sun, backed up by superb organisation, who was able to stay in front of Rune Højdahl and Massimo Di Bertolis. Di Bertolis leading out on the climbs, Højdahl on the descents. Evans was chasing hard with Rasmussen. Rasmussen was to eventually finish in 5th spot. The unfortunate Evans puncturing just 1.5 kilometres before the finish, after lots of the many accidents and punctures on the tour, including this one to American Eagle rider number 42 Arnie Broekmans. But Evans was to flat 1.5 kilometres from the finish to finish 11th, but it was the man who won on the first stage, Miguel Martinez, who took his second stage win of the 1998 tour. Just about 45 seconds in front of Diamondback rider Massimo Di Bertolis and giant rider Rune Højdahl, just 4 seconds down on Di Bertolis. Hubert Paluba was to finish 1:24 down after his puncture.
Hubert, you are disappointed today?
Yeah, I had a flat tire, so I lose the lead. Always pushing hard to get in position, do not lose too much time, that's what. Not good luck, you know, if you flatted, you lose it a couple of minutes, so this race was over, so can do nothing.
So Martinez taking his second stage win of the 98 tour, whilst Cadel Evans came across the line in 11th spot after 2 punctures on the day, losing 7 places in that last 1.5 kilometres. Unfortunate for the Volvo Cannondale rider. Welcome back to Eurosport. My name's Mark Bicycle. This was the 3rd stage of the 1998 Tour Vtt, from Savines-les-Lacs to Gap. A total distance of 48 kilometres and physically 4 stars, 4 out of 5. Very difficult for these riders. No liaison stage on this 3rd stage. Highlighted by the battle between Team Sun, Team Giant and the Diamondback team. And this stage highlighted by the very, very fast start. Although the peloton were together for the first kilometres, there was a big group of riders who eventually pulled out from the rest of the pack. 13 riders in all, led out initially by Roberto Lezon, the leader of the Orbea Zeus Veneta team. Miguel Martinez was in that out, followed by Rune Højdahl, Volvo Cannondale, Jean-Christophe Savignoni and Cyril Bonon. And it was Savignoni who was at the head of affairs after 13 kilometres. The Volvo Cannondale Pro, the nominated leader of this team, along with Cadel Evans. But at the first refreshment, the group of riders were together. Paluba was there, green jersey leader Miguel Martinez, orange jersey leader Cadel Evans. They were being chased by a group of 3. 2 Diamondback riders, Christophe Dupuy amongst them, the lone Team Sun rider. At this stage, physically 4 stars, technically not too difficult, only 2. A lot of the riders having to carry bikes. but the group stayed together. It included Lenny Christensen, Martinez, Cadel Evans, Iadazoli of the Diamondback team, Hubert Paluba, his teammate, Savignoni was then very unfortunate to have one of 3 punches he was to suffer on this stage. Mikkel Rasmussen, number 134, riding for the Danish team. He was going to suffer later on in this tour. But at 20 kilometers, it was Hubert Paluba who actually moved to the front of affairs with teammates Iadazoli and Christoph Salza, along with the 3 Team Sun riders, Dupuy, Martinez and Ossel. On this stage, there were to be many, many punctures. Cadel Evans suffering. His teammate Savignoni suffering with 3 punches. Trying desperately to stay on the pace, but unable to do that. Cadel Evans eventually finishing in 24th position. Savignoni way down in 50th position, 13 minutes 16 down. But the group at the front was large. 7 riders in all, being led out by the green jersey of Miguel Martinez, along with Hubert Paluba, ever constantly on his tail. Those 2 riders, 1st and 2nd overall in the classification. 3 Diamondback pros, 3 Sun riders. They were working very, very hard in the heat. Only 95 riders starting this 3rd stage. But it was Lenny Christensen, the giant pro and winner of the 1997 Tour, who was attacking constantly once the group had got together. And indeed, he managed to split the group. He took along with him Diamondback rider Iadazoli and also the Sun pro Christophe Hérisset. Dupuy and Paluba eventually cancelling each other out. They were chasing hard. Paluba was there. Rune Højdahl, Massimo Di Bertolis. But the head of affairs, the 3 riders, Iadazoli, Lenny Christensen and Christophe Hérisset, were working hard, but it was Hérisset who was the first of these 3 riders who was eventually to drop off. Couldn't hold the pace up the hills. And then coming into the finish, it was just Christensen and Zoli, and it was Zoli who proved the stronger, faster man with just 50 meters to go, managing to pull out ahead of the 1997 champion to please his team manager. And Zoli was to say afterwards that the attack was actually planned by the team. He said, I tried to work hard for Hubert Paluba throughout, but he unfortunately had no chance to escape. So he actually said to me, well, you try and go for it. Go for the victory yourself. And that's exactly what I did do. Christophe Hérisset was to come home in 3rd spot with Dupuy and Rune Højdahl in 4th. With Miguel Martinez and Hubert Paluba in 6th and 7th. Di Bertolis in 8th spot. But the tour was then had the benefit of some wonderful music being played by the locals. I'm sure most of the riders were quite content to leave that alone. But again, preparing for the next day's stage, massaging, relaxing as much as they could do. Cadel Evans reading very hard. His teammate Cyril Bonon was to say that the liaison stages are very good for us. He said they're perfect for us to just work out our muscles, just to loosen up.
What is interesting in the liaison stage?
Oh, the view, the scenery, and yeah, it's a good training ride. That's the main thing.
But going into stage 4, from Sisteron to Oraison, a distance of 68 kilometers on the special, 24 on the liaison stage. Physically 5 stars, technically 4. the second most difficult stage of the 98 Tour, and it was to prove another Sun benefit. Overall leader going into this stage was Miguel Martinez. He had just 124 over Hubert Paluba, the Diamondback Pro. And all of the riders, in the knowledge that the stage was going to be the second longest on this tour, not starting as fast as they had done. But at 10 kilometres, it was Michael Rasmussen of the Danish national team who actually stimulated affairs. And a group followed behind him. Well, you guessed it, Miguel Martinez, Cadel Evans, Hubert Paluba, Rasmussen. This was just a view of how difficult it is for these riders. Going uphill, one of the Scott Pros. Number 101, Eric Achard, but it was Hubert Paluba who went through the refreshment point in first spot. He attacked very hard, but unfortunately 4 riders went on course, and the organiser of the tour, Philippe Chevalier, was saying that it was actually the riders' fault. It wasn't the marshals' fault that these guys went off tour, course, including amongst them Lenny Christensen, his teammate Rune Højdal, the man in your picture now. And they were to try desperately to get back up to the leaders. Number 14 was there, Jean-Christophe Savignoni. As I said, Lenny Christensen there also amongst that group to go off course. They were to go 1K off course downhill, which made it very, very difficult to get back up to the stage. Cadel Evans was also there as well, but managed to get back to the front of the race indeed, where Miguel Martinez, Dupuy, Di Bertolis, Jan-Erik Ostergaard, David Ossel, Michael Rasmussen and Yadazoli were attacking very, very hard. The onboard camera of Vincent Julio was to give us some very good pictures of how difficult it is for these riders to descend in this stage. Don't forget, they're tired after racing for 3 days previously. Ostergaard, the oldest man on the tour at 37 years old. Cadel Evans, one of the youngest. Michael Rasmussen, riding for the Danish national team. Vincent Julio, number 53, showing us just how it is to descend fast. But at 20K, it was Ostergaard who moved to the front of the 8 racers. Di Bertolis, unfortunately, was to suffer. Vincent Julio was there as well. Mike Kluger, the German rider, was trying desperately to hang on as well, having a very quiet 1998 tour. But at the head of affairs, 3 riders moved to the front. Christophe Dupuy, Hubert Paluba and Miguel Martinez, 2 Team Suns against 1 Diamondback rider. Ostergaard had led out the pack, but couldn't hold the 3 riders who attacked. It was Paluba who actually attacked at the 50K mark, and only Martinez and Dupuy could stay with him. The rest of the riders, Orsel, Deitch, Julio, Ostergaard, Evans, Souza and Christophe Harrisay, were to chase in vain. Martinez, the Sun rider, was very confident though, but unfortunately for him, he was to puncture just 3 kilometres before the finish, leaving Dupuy, his teammate, and Hubert Paluba to lead into the town of Arezon to vie for the stage win. Martinez, as is his wont, working very, very hard to stay in touch, knowing full well that his overall classification was threatened by Hubert Paluba, who was roughly about 1 kilometre or so up ahead of him. And somehow the diminutive Martinez was to remain in contact and wasn't to lose as much time as you probably have thought. But leading into the sprint, it was Hubert Paluba who was to lose out again to another Sun rider. It was Christophe Dupuy who was to take the win ahead of him in a time of 2:08:30, just 2 seconds in front of Hubert Paluba. But the main point of the race was Miguel Martinez managing somehow to mend a puncture and only lose just over a minute to hold on to the overall. And Martinez said that it was so important to keep the jersey. He said, I had a puncture about 3 kilometers from the finish. I actually took many, many risks. I was actually scared that I would crash at the end. But Paluba is really strong. He said, I'm happy to actually keep my advantage before the time trial. And indeed, his advantage was to be 19 seconds going into the time trial on the 5th stage over Hubert Paluba, with Christophe Dupuy 3 minutes 17 down. Evans still in orange. Welcome back to Eurosport for stage 5 of the highlight programme. Etienne Les Orgues, a time trial of 16 kilometres. Start, but technically 4, very difficult for these riders. 18 kilometres round the town of Saint-Étienne-les-Orgues, and it was Cadel Evans, the leader of the orange, the leader of the under-22 section of the tour, who was first of the major contenders to go off. Evans was to eventually finish with a time of 43:59, which was to put him in 6th spot. Lenny Christensen, the leader from 1990, winner from 1997, and #1 rider, was to eventually finish in 12th spot with a time of 44:53, 2:49 behind the leader on the time trial stage. The giant rider trying very, very hard to win a stage. Number 25, David Orcel, who up to this stage was lying in 7th spot before the time trial. He was to have a relatively poor time trial and only come 19th, 3:08 down on the winner of the stage. Orcel not noted for his time trial inability, but working tirelessly for team leader and overall leader of the classification, Miguel Martinez. Rune Højdahl, 6th place rider in the overall after going off course on stage 4. He was to eventually finish in 5th place on this stage, 1:54 down on the winner with a time of 43:58. That stage 4 was to ruin Højdahl's tour. His lowest ever, his lowest performance on the stage in 20th spot. The next rider we see, number 23, Christophe Hérisset, another one of the Team Sun riders, not noted for his time trial inability. He wasn't going to try too hard on this stage. His main task was to help team leader Miguel Martinez. Hérisset finishing with a time of 47:20, 5:16 down on the winning time. But the next man, Massimo Di Bertolis, he was to have a relatively poor time trial stage as well. For him anyway, a noted time trialist in Italy, confident of winning it. He was very disappointed to finish in 3rd spot. Most other people would have been confident to finish in that, but he was to finish 1:03 down on the eventual winning time. Christophe Dupuy, the Team Sun rider and leader of the Team Sun, number 21, before the start of the tour. That taken over by his teammate Miguel Martinez. He was to finish in 4th spot, 1:10 down on the winning time. But of course the main battle was between the 2 riders in the 1st and 2nd spots in the overall classification. That was Hubert Paluba, the world champion from 1997, and Miguel Martinez. The riders, of course, going off in reverse order of what they were in the general classification. Hubert Paluba going 2nd last. He was 19 seconds down on Miguel Martinez after Martinez's puncture the previous day in stage 4. But Paluba never likely to threaten Miguel Martinez in the time trial stage. Martinez, the winner of time trial stages on the previous 3 tours, the first tour of 1995. Paluba was to eventually come home with a time of 42:44 seconds. Out of the saddle and sprinting towards the finish line. Regarded as probably the strongest rider in the tour, but one of the most nervous as well.
I lose my bottle holder, I had to stop to move it up, and I don't know, I give my best and that's it.
But it was Miguel Martinez, the green jersey Wearer, who was to go last off of these 95 riders. And he really did ride a very good, well-timed time trial. 12 seconds down at the midpoint check. He was to power home over the rest of the course with an advantage of being very, very light. Martinez was to eventually finish with a time of 42 minutes and 4 seconds. That was to give him his third stage victory of the 98 Tour. And his 7th in all. Paluba was expectant, waiting to see Martinez finish. And Martinez indeed came across the line 40 seconds in front of the Italian.
40 seconds.
40 seconds in front of you.
And Paluba was obviously disappointed, knowing that Martinez had been in front of him. But Martinez said that he was very happy to keep the jersey. He said, I crashed today and maybe I lost about 15 seconds. I hurt my thigh and suffered. I really, really did suffer on this stage and I was right at my limit. But the young Miguel Martinez won the stage with a time of 42.04 to extend his lead in the overall classification back up to almost a minute, 59 seconds. But the 6th stage from Salt to Apt, 47 kilometres on the special stage, 49 on the liaison, physically 3 stars, technical difficulty of 4. And this stage was to be highlighted by the win for Massimo Di Bertolis. It was also to be highlighted by the failure and indeed the difficulty for Hubert Paluba, the main challenger to the overall classification of Miguel Martinez. But at 3 kilometres, a group of riders was to form at the head of affairs. And that was to go on to dominate the Tour. One of the locals, a French farmer, was to say, it looks like hot work on the VTT. It's a lot harder than harvesting. But at 12 kilometres, the stage highlighted not only by the difficulties for Hubert Paluba, but also by his blistering attack. He attacked along with Cyril Bonon. And indeed, Hubie was to go on to drop Bonon. And by 15 kilometres, he was a minute and 14 in front of Miguel Martinez. Martinez admitting after the stage ended that this was perhaps his worst day on the Tour 1998. Cyril Bonon was trying to hold on to Hubert Paluba, as was number 33, Massimo Di Bertolis. Raul Paulison was trying hard to keep in contact. Bruno Heidel was there as well. Rafael Martinez and also indeed Roberto Lezan, the leader of the Orbio Zeus team. David Orsell was also trying to hang on. He was eventually to finish in 9th spot. Miguel Martinez, though, having an awful day for him. He was to crash, but not hurt himself. But at that stage, he was 3 minutes 15 seconds behind Hubert Paluba, who was riding as strong as he had done throughout the Tour. Given time checks by team manager. Indeed, the Team Sun helpers all concerned about what had happened to the rest of the Team Sun. But number 35, Iadazoli, he was to have a problem with his rear tyre. And it was to be a day highlighted by problems for almost everyone. Martinez having a bad day, Paluba having a blistering day, but also an extremely unlucky one at the end. He crashed at the beginning of the stage, cutting a forearm. But it was Di Bertolis who was trying to help Hubert Paluba by countering the attacks of Team Sun. They were working very, very hard to hang on to Paluba, who at this stage of the race still held that lead of 3 minutes over a chasing group. The chasing group constituted Raul Paulison, Christophe Dupuy, Gregory Volley, and indeed Rune Heidal. Martin out the stage looking very, very tired. He was being helped by David Orsell. Orsell working tirelessly for Martinez, constantly leading him up the climbs and indeed down the descent. But Paluba was to be caught in the end by his teammate Massimo De Pitolis. But the unfortunate Paluba was to suffer not only one puncture but two, and then the worst thing that could have happened to him, he started having problems with his bars as well. Not only the puncture, but the bars. Working loose on the climb at 43 kilometers. This was to prove the undoing of Hubert Paluba. No way you can ride a mountain bike when you can't have got your bars in control. But De Bertolis playing the vigilant teammate to Hubert Paluba, trying desperately to hold on to him, working for his team leader and 97 world champion. But Sébastien Vossage, this was to prove a very good day for him, because he was to take over from Cadel Evans on this stage, who had a simply atrocious time. Giant rider Rune Heidal was hanging in there in third spot at this time, but it was Paluba who was to suffer his second puncture, and so annoying for him. There's nothing he could do. He had no more inner tubes, but just rip off the tyre. The 33-year-old Italian eventually having to work his way towards the finish line without a tyre, without an inner tube, on the rim. Extremely dangerous indeed. Not the sort of thing recommended for any rim, let alone your rear one. So Miguel Martinez was to benefit from the ill luck that Hubert Paluba suffered, and indeed Martinez eventually catching the Italian. A big surprise for Martinez, as he said at the end of the stage. Zooming past the Italian, not realising how lucky he had been on this stage. But it was Massimo De Bertolis who was to eventually win it with a time of 1:51.47. The second Diamondback win, and De Bertolis was happy to do that. Second on stage two. The Diamondback team extremely happy for De Bertolis, but unhappy for Hubert Paluba. Paluba trying to limit his losses, but eventually finishing on the rim. Perhaps the unluckiest man of the tour, but Martinez wasn't. Number 24. He said afterwards that he thought he's won the tour. Paluba had bad luck today. He said that he took many risks, Hubert Paluba, and he thought that Martinez thought that he'd have to walk into the finish line. He said, as for me, I did well with my injured leg after the time trial stage yesterday. I had to take it easy at first, but the unlucky Paluba finishing in 12th spot, 2:55 down on the winner, Massimo De Bertolis, with Miguel Martinez finishing in 7th spot with a time of 1 hour, 53 seconds and 53 minutes and 34 seconds, 1:47 down on the winner.
No, you see everything. The luck is not on my side. I flatted 2 times and...
A sorry sight indeed for Hubert Paluba, who was to drop down 2 minutes 7 seconds behind Miguel Martinez. Disconsolate indeed.
It's a good place to ride. I mean, proper mountains. We don't have proper mountains like this where we live, so it's going to be hard, I think.
One of the many riders to take part in the Randonnée section of this tour. Over 500 riders able to ride the stage that the pros had ridden. English, French, Swiss, Dutch, Austrian, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, all taking part in the Randonnée. on the first stage for the public to take part in and to enjoy. And the spectator at the side of the course said it's very hot for these riders, it's very beautiful. Welcome back to highlights of the 1998 Vtt. No liaison stage today, a special stage of 89 kilometers. Physically the most difficult, the longest stage of the Tour, and highlighted by the attack at 5 kilometers by Christophe Dupuy, number 21 rider of Team Sun. This was to prove a mammoth stage indeed. The winning time at the end, 3 hours, 40 minutes. Rune Højdahl, his team manager, away at the downhill race in Kabrun, the Grundig downhill race. He was to wear his Norwegian national champions jersey that he won just a month beforehand. At this stage, 89 kilometers, no liaison stage on this day, as you would expect. But the motivation of the motivation of Hubert Paluba was to go on this stage. He just simply couldn't raise himself for it after the difficulties he'd suffered on the previous stage. What with the punctures, the bars, the crash. But it's Dupuy who was out front. At 24 kilometers, he was 1:08 in front of a chasing group of riders. With Bonon was there, Højdahl, Martinez, Paulisson, Lezon, Zolli. Paluba was 1:53 down. But Rune Højdahl was trying desperately to get back up to Christophe Dupuy. The Norwegian national champion riding for Giant. He was ahead of a chasing group of 5 riders at the 40-kilometer mark. That included Roberto Lezon, team leader of the Orbius team, number 45 rider, Roald Paulisson of the American Eagle team, Miguel Martinez riding cagily indeed. He was in that group, but he didn't want to chase down Rune Højdahl. There was no need for him to do that. He was so far in front of most of the riders. Fourth place rider Massimo Di Bertoli's 10:40 down. The only thing he had to watch out for was Hubert Paluba, who was behind him at this stage. But in the group, along with Miguel Martinez, was Cyril Bonon and indeed Cadel Evans. But Hubert Paluba, by this stage of the race, had really lost all motivation to do anything. But unfortunately for Dupuy, he was to be caught at the 40-kilometer mark by Rune Højdahl. Miguel Martinez was to go past, as was Roberto Lezon. But at the 64-kilometer mark, Cyril Bonon suffered a rear brake problem, and that was to be the end of his tour. He was going for the stage win, which he'd done in 1997, but he was to abandon after this difficulty. He said afterwards that he just had so much bad luck. It's just ridiculous. I had punctures again. Everything is going wrong for me this year. I really am unlucky. It's just not my year. It's just so annoying, but of course that's something that you expect on a stage race. But overall leader Miguel Martinez, who was 2 minutes 7 seconds in front of Hubert Paluba at the start of the stage, and 3 minutes 39 in front of Christophe Dupuy. He was to team up with Rune Højdahl, Dupuy falling back, and the two teammates not exactly agreeing with each other at the end of the stage. Højdahl and Martinez working with each other. Højdahl intent on trying to improve his overall classification. He was in 5th spot at the beginning of the day, 12:08 down on Miguel Martinez, and Højdahl was to have his own problems. He was to have rear brake problems at the 85-kilometer mark, just 4 kilometers from the finish. Højdahl trying desperately to win his first ever stage on the Tour, but it wasn't to be for him. It was to be for Miguel Martinez, who was to win his 4th stage. Vtt. He was congratulated by his mother and his brother. The unfortunate Hoydal coming across the line 26 seconds down with Rafael Martinez. Miguel Martinez is a cousin coming home in third, and the unfortunate Paluba, he was to come home in 15th spot, 15 minutes, 18 seconds down. Vorsage leading the under-21s. The next stage, the last stage of the tour, physically only 2-star, technically 4, a relatively short stage of 36 kilometres. This was to be a highlight for Cadel Evans, the Volvo Cannondale rider. But unlike the previous stage, this stage started very, very fast indeed. Relatively short for these riders. They knew it was the last day. All of the top 10 watching each other, but it was Lenny Christensen, winner from 1997, who was trying to win his first stage of this tour. He'd won the seventh stage in 1996. He'd won the third stage in 97. That's when he took over the overall lead. Cadel Evans, he was so intent on winning a stage, though. He'd lost his lead in the under-22 section of the tour. Gregory Volley was up amongst the leaders as well, the giant rider, teammate to Rune Hoydal and Lenny Christensen. Number 35, Yadazoli, was there as well. Miguel Martinez, he was riding with Rune Hoydal, the second-place rider in the overall classification. He'd taken over that second spot from Hubert Paluba. Paluba now down to third spot, 17.25 down. Rune Hoydal 12 minutes 34 down in second spot. Martinez knew he'd had the tour sewn up. Roberto Luzern's teammate, number 153, Laurent Gersay, he was trying hard to get his first top 10 position. Hubert Paluba was just trying hard to stay with the leaders and not having the greatest of luck like the rest of the tour. For Paluba, this was to prove his ultimate undoing. He was to eventually finish in 31st spot. All motivation gone, 6 minutes, 16 down. But Lenny Christensen was trying hard to win that first stage, and it was to prove unlucky for him as well. This tour highlighted by the mechanical problems for almost every rider, even winner Miguel Martinez. He was the only man able not to lose too much time to the rest of the tour, but it was Christensen who had trouble, first of all, with a mucked-up rear block full of grass and mud from when he crashed earlier on the stage. Not too difficult crash for him. It wasn't to hold him back, though. He was still at the front of affairs. Trying desperately to win that first stage. Only 74 riders left in the tour on the last stage. 100 riders starting it, 74 left. And the last stage highlighted by the brilliant weather as it was throughout the tour, not a drop of rain. Well, unfortunately for Lenny Christensen, he was to have more problems with his rear wheel. It was to be a puncture for him, and it was Cadel Evans who was to prove the beneficiary of Christensen's undoing. Evans started putting 21 seconds into Christensen at that point when he punctured, and he was never to be headed for the rest of the stage, eventually coming home in a time of 1:27.47. He was chased all the way by Gregory Volley. Yadazoli, the winner from stage 3. Rune Hoydal was there as well, always in the top 10, apart from the day when he went off course, when he eventually finished in 20th spot. Hoydal possibly losing out. Could have been a winner of this 1998 tour, but it was Cadel Evans, the leader of the Grundig Cross Country World Cup, who was to come home in first spot. His first win of this year's tour. He didn't win a stage in 1997. He won the last stage in 1996. He won the last stage this year, but coming home in second spot was Yadazoli, with Gregory Volley in third. Just about 50 seconds down. Rune Højdahl was to come home in fourth spot, 1 minute and 4 seconds down. But it was Martinez who had led throughout the 1998 Vtt, had won 4 stages and was to come home eventually in 11th spot for his first ever win.
C'est ta plus belle victoire?
And he was asked, is it a good victory? And he said, it's a fabulous victory for me. It's the most fantastic thing. For me in mountain biking, it's like winning the Tour de France, the road Tour de France. He said, there is no bigger prize. It's fantastic. Looking on was Christophe Dupuy, looking to see where Hubert Paluba was to finish on this stage. 31st spot, 6 minutes down. He was to eventually finish in 3rd spot. Miguel Martinez, winner of the 1998 Vtt, 11:39 in front of Rune Højdahl, 21:42 in front of Hubert Paluba. Martinez's teammate finishing in 4th. Bossage winning the under-22 section. Team Sun winning the team classification. I hope you've enjoyed the highlights here on Eurosport. Bye-bye.
Oswald Class was presented by
Big Star, the legendary blue jeans.
featuring the mountain bike Tour de France and Thompson.